Hi, my name is Janina Sundermeier and I'm highly interested in the topic of women's entrepreneurship. I'm currently organizing a couple of different formats that empower and support nascent women entrepreneurs that want to realize their own business ideas. But people keep on asking me on why do we need such formats and why do we need to talk about women's entrepreneurship. And I thought that this video now is a perfect occasion to talk about these questions. That's why I'm really happy to have Stephanie Birkner right now. She holds a professorship of female entrepreneurship and she's an expert in this area. So, hi Steffi.
Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here. So, I have a couple of questions, and the first one would be, why do we need to talk about women's entrepreneurship, and since when has this topic gained of importance in science and practice?
In science, I would say it's like the last 20 to 25 years that we finally reached the status from a historical ignored construct to a, I would say, road less traveled. Before 20 to 25 years ago, women's entrepreneurship hasn't been a topic at all. So all what we have at best has been a gender-neutral perspective on doing research. Actually, it has been biased towards more masculine approach. So what we know about entrepreneurship before that hand is actually more a perspective of white, middle-aged men. But since then, we learned more and more with the strive to have more entrepreneurs, to have aspects of have higher and a bigger amount of innovations for all those society challenges we face, we learned that we do need a higher number of entrepreneurs, and somehow that 1%, which is almost 50% of our whole population, which is women, somehow don't have the intention to start up. So research dig deeper into this question, why do we have this gap? And found out that it's not a gap of intention, it's as well a gap of research. So since then, own research questions has been raised. Do women entrepreneurs differ in what they do and why they start up? All still focusing on the sex question. Within the last years, we entered an approach of focusing on gender aspects as well. So question is a form of femininity or masculinity that makes a difference in entrepreneurship and innovation. So this is why there comes the difference between looking at women's entrepreneurship or like my domination on female entrepreneurship. So women's entrepreneurship as well focuses on women's and femininity. But if you integrate like really forms of feminine economics or gender studies, people tend to switch more and talk about female entrepreneurship as well.
In relation to this, I'm really curious to know if you observe certain patterns in the discourse on women's entrepreneurship.
We do have like different discourses as well that foster the idea of how we can research women's entrepreneurship or female entrepreneurship. Starting off looking at the ecosystem, like entrepreneurial ecosystem, what needs to be there in questions of infrastructure, or like what is an entrepreneurial spirit that boosts the intention of women as well, up to the idea, is there a difference really between females and males in entrepreneurship, or is this more the idea of self-efficacy, the difference in them, how they approach themselves at all, how they can think that they can change something and build the future and even create it. So from a total personal perspective up to an ecosystem or an economical system, we do have a lot of deep approaches and debates this discuss. So all in all, female entrepreneurship as well as women's entrepreneurship is an absolutely interdisciplinary field of research with a bunch of methodology approaches that we can work on with. So if you ask me what are patterns of, I would say whatever you research in entrepreneurship, whatever you focus on innovation research, whatever you do in both of its practices, integrate a female or women's perspective will be a good approach. So whatever you do there, it's part of women's and female entrepreneurship.
There was one aspect in your answer I would like to dig deeper on. So is there really a difference between women's and men's entrepreneurship?
It depends, I would say, like always. You do see a difference in the attention. Do they see themselves that they can change the future? Do they see themselves that they can create something new? And we do have, of course, a difference in those that go and dig deeper into STEM fields, because we lack there women as well. So we do have a bias there as well. So if you look at numbers, we do have a difference. From my perspective, it doesn't matter who you are. to do entrepreneurship. All of us have this inner spirit. It's more the question if you see yourself there and if the community you're in welcomes you. So we do have a lot of networks that are still male dominated. If we look at the venture capital side, we learned just recently that men are asked different questions compared to women. We ask men to win and women not to lose. So that we somehow force them into the idea that they tell a different story. So we need to learn where we are biased. They are not different. We bias them.
You have mentioned that the startup ecosystem is of importance and that we have to change the structures over there as well. But do you observe still, or which are the most prevailing obstacles to women entrepreneurship that you observe?
I think it's a question of different things. It's a question of networks, which are still often dominated by men. And we know that we try to support those that equal to us. This is just something that we learned from research and that we know that it's the same in the startup system. At the same time, there are values and attitudes that are more quantitatively oriented, while we learn that a lot of women more look at qualitative ideas of success, of the idea how they are allowed to fail, if at all. And we as well, like in leading situations, we have the situation of boss and bossy, that the same ways of how men and women are reacting are totally seen from stereotypes, ideas of genders differently. So if a female entrepreneur is doing the same like a male entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's seen as successful. So the idea of how they approach what they do is dissonant to the idea between what we see as a good aspect of womanhood and the lack of fit to what we, at least at the moment, approach as something being good entrepreneurship.
And what would be your wishes for the future of women's entrepreneurship?
In general, on entrepreneurship, it would be so good if we just could talk about people. It's the people's business for the future of a society. So by lacking a total number of potential is just ecological bullshit, if I'm allowed to say that. So not integrating parts of those that don't feel they could be part is just an educational aspect. So starting from the lower parts of our education system, we anyhow would, if I could make a wish, should start with entrepreneurship with our Pampers boys and girls. Both of them. And we need to learn where we can do and undo entrepreneurship, where we really need to talk about women's entrepreneurship, where we need to foster them, and where we do have attitudes and skills that do not need to be stereotyped as well. On the same thing, what I would like to see is that we make use of this potential not by integrating it in an existing idea of a still masculine-oriented entrepreneurial ecosystem, an idea of success, that we give rise to the new idea of female entrepreneurship as an own attitude that can be done by men and women alike.
Thanks a lot, Steffi. These were really interesting insights, and this was just a brief overview of women and men's entrepreneurship, if you would label it like this. And we both would like to encourage, especially the women, to step out of their comfort zone and to realize their own business ideas, because there are obstacles out there, but there are as well a lot of chances on women's entrepreneurship. So we wish you a lot of luck with your own business, with realizing your own business ideas.